All right, guys, welcome to the third week of USD Career Conversations. My name is Ashlyn Schoenfelder, and I am a career advisor and employer relations coordinator at the University of South Dakota. I work in the Academic and Career Planning Center. This video will be recorded and available on our YouTube channel to view at a later time. This week, we are joined by the following employers: First Bank and Trust, Josh Bloom; Jane Ray Events, Katie Murphy; Masaba, Alyssa Walker; Northwestern Mutual, Reagan Dennis; and the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, Ashlyn Blenner. We will first introduce ourselves more in depth and then dive deep into the questions. I will save time at the end for any questions for anybody that joins us live. So to get started, we will have the employers introduce themselves, and we will start with Josh. And can you tell us a little bit about your name, your job title, what you do, and just a little bit about your company?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having us, Ashlyn. Like Ashlyn said, my name is Josh Bloom. I work for First Bank and Trust, downtown Sioux Falls. I've been with the bank now for 4.5 years. Actually started in college at Vermillion. I'm a retail banking officer, so really do anything that you would need when you would walk into the bank, whether that be lending, and just general questions about anything bank related. First Bank and Trust serves 22 locations. Actually started in 1880, I believe, which was before South Dakota became a state. So been around a long time.
Awesome. Thanks, Josh. We have Katie Murphy, and she's the CEO and founder of Jane Ray Events.
Hi, thank you, Ashlyn. Again, my name is Katie, and I founded this company about 5 years ago as of this January. So Jane Ray Events is a boutique and event planning design studio right downtown Sioux Falls. And what makes us a little different is that we offer the planning, all the rentals, and the floral design all in one house. So usually you have to go to 3 different people for that. And as a boutique spot, we do all those things. So we have a great team here. It was just me when I started out, and now we have, depending on the time of year, we have anywhere from 10 to 15 people that work on our team, and we work with, this year it's going to be just over 200 clients. So by the end of this year, which there are only 52 weekends in a year, so you can imagine how busy we are with events. So yeah.
Oh my gosh. That is
Yeah.
so many. Congratulations, by the way. That's so exciting.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. We have a lot of fun.
Love it. Next, we have Alyssa Walker from Masaba.
Hi, my name's Alyssa Walker. I'm the HR specialist recruiter at Masaba. What we do here at Masaba is we're a third generation family run and operated business. We build and design equipment for the mining and aggregate industry. So anything from conveyors, wash plants, screen plants, magnum conveyors. We do it all in-house, start to finish.
Thank you, Alyssa. Next, we have Reagan from Northwestern Mutual.
Thank you, Ashlyn. Hi, guys. My name is Reagan. Again, I am the campus recruiter and internship development coordinator here at Northwestern Mutual. Really, we have offices all over the United States, but our territory specifically is the South Dakota region and a small portion of Northwest Iowa. In my role specifically, I actually started as an intern myself, and now I get the opportunity to go back on campuses and really just introduce this career to students, and then really take place in the coordinating and the development of growing as a professional personally come summertime in our internship space. A little bit about Northwestern Mutual. We are a financial planning company. With that being said, we have the investment space, the retirement space, the insurance side of the business. And we have been a company for about 165 years and servicing around 4.5 million clients across the United States. So that's a little bit about us.
Wonderful. Thanks, Reagan. Next, we have Ashlyn Blenner from the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency.
Good morning. So yeah, my name is Ashlyn Blenner. I am an Associate National Bank Examiner with the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, or the OCC for short. I work in mid-sized community bank supervision, so one of the different facets that we have within the OCC, and examine national banks and federal savings associations. I work out of our Sioux City satellite office, so we're a satellite office of Sioux Falls, South Dakota. As far as the OCC itself as a company, so the OCC is an independent bureau of the U.S. Treasury for the government. We're headed by the Comptroller of the Currency, so that's appointed by the president for a 5-year term. Currently, we have an acting comptroller. We supervise over 1,000 national banks and federal savings associations, protecting a little over $14 trillion in banking assets. Nationwide, the OCC is headquartered in Washington, D.C., since it's a government company. However, we do have offices throughout the U.S., as I mentioned, locally: Sioux Falls, Sioux City, Omaha, Minneapolis, to name a few. And then the OCC examines, enforces, licenses, and regulates national banks and federal savings associations. And specifically for my line of business in mid-sized and community bank supervision, we're really focusing on exam work for our local banks and within our geo area as well.
Wonderful. Thanks, Ashlyn. This is just a little bit more about the OCC. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen, and we will get started with the questions. All right, to get started, the first question and a few other questions will be touched on for resumes. So for the first question, could any of you guys answer, what are the key points you see on resumes that stand out to you? And anybody can answer first.
I can start. I would say probably the key, one of the main things you're looking at, spelling, grammar. Those are key items that stick out. As far as talking through points on a resume using chronological order, I think that's ease of reading. Functionality, focusing on the skills that you have for the job, looking at the job description, the job duties, look at the company that you're applying for, and just use your work experience and your involvement on campus to really highlight your skills and how you're qualified for the job.
Absolutely. Anyone else want to add?
No, I thought that summed it up pretty good. But something that me and an HR person here at First Bank and Trust talked about was just depending on the job that you're applying to, it's always good practice to, tailor that towards that job. There's a lot of banking jobs and they don't all require the same skills. So just being aware of that.
Absolutely. So next question, do you guys have any recommendations on how students can gain experience for their resume or portfolio?
I can go ahead and start with this one. I would say internships are really huge, at least for like our industry in particular. A lot of people in the events world or hotel, they go with like the business management or hospitality degree route. And that, I think that only gets you like so far. And the internships is really what's going to give you that experience in that industry. And there's so many areas that you can experience within that, whether it's in the food or the event planning or the design part of it. So I look at experience in what past internships they have had, but I also look at what extra activities they're involved in college, like whether that's planning a campus event or some just extra involvement in different organization and groups there.
And Katie, you guys do have some internships available at your company, correct?
We do, yes. That's a big part of our like resume and hiring process. And we hire from our internship pool too.
Nice.
So yeah.
Love it.
Mm-hmm.
I can kind of,
yeah, go ahead, Reagan.
sorry. I can kind of tag off of that. Myself being in the role of gathering interns for our company, year after year. I'm looking at resumes often. And I especially am looking for, the engagements on campus. If you're in a sport, I think sometimes people kind of are like, I've not had a job yet. Realizing that that is really a full-time job for yourself. Include those things, what clubs you're in. Again, and kind of going back to the resume piece of, I like how you said, tailor it to the job you're applying for, because in our industry, really, we're not major specific. At the end of the day, like having a nice short summary at the top of like why you are applying for this job and why you want that interview, and really like where your passion is. Not to jump ships, but
Awesome. Thank you. So next question, this is somewhat specific to your guys' companies or areas, but how are resumes reviewed? Are they reviewed by the computer system or an individual person? Can you guys kind of explain how you review resumes?
I can start. So
You can
for
start.
the OCC, I was going to say for the OCC, our recruiting is all centralized. And so we have different recruiters within our field offices that go out to colleges and represent the OCC and recruit students. So a lot of the process on the back end of reviewing everything is really centralized there. However, for most federal agencies, there's some kind of a computer analysis to start off with, looking for buzzwords from the job description, from the company itself to look at in resumes. And then there's the individual review afterwards. And then federal resumes are different than your typical industry or the private sector. You're used to the 1 to 2 page resumes. However, that's different when you get into federal government jobs, whereas our resumes are much more detailed, and there is a template for federal resumes as well that I think I've provided at USC before.
Melissa, what were you going to add?
I guess with ours, we have a system that gives us a rating on how well it was filled out, our application with background information. So that gives us the rating, but that doesn't mean we don't review it. So then afterwards, I go through and review it. I check work history and experience, and then I send it off. We have an employing the supervisor of the department they're applying for that'll review it also. So there's a lot of human hands that goes through.
And could you guys, Katie, Reagan, and Josh, could you tell us how you guys review resumes if you do review resumes?
Yeah, I don't personally review them,
Mhm.
but they are manually
Okay.
reviewed at First Bank and Trust. So they go through both the hiring manager for that specific job and an HR rep.
Awesome.
Yeah, I personally and another gal on our recruiting team, we are all physically looking at those. And I would say another big piece of when you are submitting a resume, a lot of the times if, we see a lot of things that we like on there, we're going to those LinkedIn platforms as well. So also having those kind of matching up. But then on our full-time side, we actually have like really a set person that's screening a lot of our resumes. And a lot don't make it past her.
Gotcha. Good to know that you guys are also looking at LinkedIn. We always try to push that at USD. So good to know that an employer is looking at that. And Katie?
Yes, so I personally don't look at them. We have our team that does that, but it's definitely a person every time. It's not screened by any computer system, and we are a small business,
Yeah.
so that's how we operate here. And we're really looking at, piggybacking on all you guys said, we're really looking at how they tailor it to here and knowing that there was some research done beforehand in that process too.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yes. Thank you guys. So now we are going to touch base on the interview process. So many interviews start with a question. Tell me a little bit about yourself. How do you prefer the applicants to answer this question?
I would say just be prepared for it. That's a pretty typical starting question. Something that you can be expecting to be asked is, tell me about yourself, have a quick 2 to 3 minute intro, tell your name, obviously where you're going to school, what you're studying, how you're involved on campus, talk about your work experience, and why you're excited for the job and what makes you qualified for the job.
Easy enough. Anyone else have anything to add for that one?
I just want to add
Yeah,
in,
I would
like,
just
be
say,
careful.
Go ahead, Alyssa.
Be careful what you say, because it is an opportunity to talk about yourself, but we don't want to know, like, the last job. It's not the best time to bring up the reason you left your last job was because it was either that or starting a fight with your coworker. We want it to be honest, but we don't. That's not necessarily going to help your situation and want us to hire you, as if you tell about the bad experience of why you're currently looking for a job.
Yes, absolutely. Josh?
yeah, I was just going to say it's kind of a jumping off point for your entire interview. So just to be prepared, to be concise, I think is really important. But also to have some of your personality come through, because to be too prepared and too rehearsed, isn't good either. So finding a nice balance.
Absolutely. Katie, did you have something to add?
That's Josh, you pinned it for me. I was going to say that's a huge part of our, huge part of our interview process is really digging into personality and attitude. And this one kicks that off for us. I'm looking for this one. Yes, I'm looking at where you go to school, what's your past work experience, but I saw that on the resume. So I'm looking more so, what are your hobbies? What do you like to do with your friends, family, things like that? Where do you come from? Where'd you grow up? Those types of things. I think it says a lot about somebody just in that one question. And that's really what we're looking for, is like the personality and attitude and things like that.
For sure. So next question, how can students prepare for an interview? What are some tips?
I'd say at the end of the day, the job description really is like a cheat sheet for you. Do your research, look at their websites, their Facebooks, and sometimes too, the employer that you're sitting down with on that interview, just coming in prepared. But again, I think going off of what Josh said, not being too rehearsed, not saying all the basic things that everyone's saying, stand out with your personality. Just be yourself, because I would go with Katie. We're looking for a lot of that personality and the drive and passion, and the characteristics that they bring to the table.
For sure.
And don't be afraid to ask questions, because there's going to be a part in almost every interview, usually towards the end, where they ask you if you have any questions. Don't be afraid to ask the questions. Feel free to ask about holidays or benefits or what our hours are, or any other questions because it makes you more personable, that you can ask those questions, because maybe that's something that they forgot to mention that they had down to mention.
For sure. So what is the interview process like to get hired? Are there multiple interviews? Do you have some that start out with virtual interviews and then in person, or are they all in person, all virtual? How does that kind of work? And anyone can start.
I can start.
Yeah.
So for the OCT, we have your initial application period, and then there's a screening interview, and that is done via phone, or it might be on Zoom or some kind of a virtual platform. That one's not, hasn't historically been in person. And then after that interview, if the candidate's successful, then there's the final interview process during our continuing education week. That has historically been in person. However, with COVID, it had moved virtually, and they hadn't decided yet this year what the plan would be for that, if it would be in person or virtual. But there's two interviews.
Okay. Josh, for you?
Yeah, ours is also pretty much always going to be 2 interviews, depending on the position. And that's going to be done with just 2 people, typically the HR rep and the hiring manager for that position.
Okay.
I would say for ours, being a financial planning company, we are housed of financial advisors, and essentially our interns are college financial reps. So they look a little different on both sides, but pretty similar. Internship, we kind of have to utilize. We are a centralized recruiting, so a lot of ours are Zoom. But on both ends of full-time or internship, that first meeting essentially is very informative, even just for the interviewee of choosing this career path, because at the end of the day, this is a career that you gotta want it. And on the full-time side, a lot more in person. That's a 4-step process. Internships more of a 3. And we also include spouses in that last meeting for full-time side. So kind of getting your support people in on the meeting as well.
Interesting. Good to know. And Katie, how do you guys do interviews?
So we have done both virtual and in person. I personally really prefer in person. I'm like really stressing on the personality and attitude, and I think you can really pick that up when you're in person with somebody. But in the past, so far we have always hired from our intern pool. It is going to change. Actually, just recently, we are going to open up for a few positions, and we're revamping how that interview process looks, because this is a whole different position versus just an internship role. And we're looking at that to be about 3 to 4 different interviews.
Wow.
And one of them being like a more social setting too. We're such a small group here, and it's super important that this person and whoever comes on our team is going to support the team. And so I think in like a social setting, really dig into the personality and everything is going to be a part of that interview process too.
For sure.
Yeah.
Thank you. Awesome. Melissa, do you want to add?
Yeah, so our interview process is usually in person. The first interview will be with the supervisor of that department, and the same day it'll be a follow-up. So right after that one, you'll meet with our HR manager and our VP of operations. Get a little bit more personal. The first interview kind of talks about the job description and your work aspect, and then the second one gets a little bit more background.
Absolutely. So this one's usually a touchy one because a lot of students get nervous when they get asked this question. How should students truly answer the weakness question? So any tips? This is even a hard one for us too.
I think it is something.
I'd be
I think it
happy
is
to
something
talk
you
about
should answer.
We'll have Alyssa go first and then Josh.
Okay, I mean, I guess I just think it's something that you should talk about. I mean, sometimes the weakness, what you think is a weakness personally, could be an asset. Could be an asset to the position you're looking into. I just think that it's worth the opportunity to explore your weakness, but make sure that your weakness isn't, yeah, I really like to like we start at 6 a.m. and our production does. Yeah, I'm not a big morning person. Well, I mean, turn it around to something that can make you look good too. Like, okay, well, that's going to be hard for us if we can't count on you to show up at 6 a.m. when we need you to show up because you like to sleep in till 7. So I guess know what your job's going to be and be able to find the true weakness that could be an asset that'll make you stand out. Because your weakness can be something that makes you stand out and makes you more or a better candidate for the position.
Absolutely. Josh, what were you going to add?
Yeah, so I feel like it's just not an easy question to answer because it's probably different for each hiring manager, which is probably not helpful for anybody. But, I think you can make the mistake of being too honest about it. So I would just probably say the same thing. You're going to have to probably turn it into a strength. It's usually going to be the best route for you to go. I've certainly made the mistake of being too honest. Just probably depends.
Yeah. And that's what we always tell students when we're doing mock interviews is everybody has a weakness, no one's perfect. So make sure you turn that weakness into a positive and how it can benefit the company. So we'll move on to our next question. And these are just kind of random questions. So how would you recommend students try out your line of work through a summer job, internships, volunteering. And I know we mentioned doing internships, but are you guys looking at students that do volunteer work or have a summer job, or what happens if you have a student that's amazing and they've never had a job before? Are you going to give that person a chance?
I can start on this one. I think starting with like the job piece, we do naturally take on like juniors and seniors. We've taken sophomores that are very exceptional before. But like with our program, we are looking for more of like your characteristics of like hardworking, self-motivated, entrepreneurial. I think bringing in examples of those into that interview, because here we're going to provide you, it is an internship. So this is where you're going to gain that experience. But we're going to provide you with all the training, the knowledge, the tools, the resources to match with the characteristics that you bring to the table. So I would say our internship is a great opportunity to get experience in the business world, but going on to like, if you don't feel like you have enough experience, still reach out. You got to start somewhere, I think. Is the piece.
Absolutely. Thanks, Reagan. Anyone else have anything to add?
I want to add on. I'll add on because I've worked with like Department of Labor, and so I actually had one reach out this week, and there's someone that might be interested in doing and becoming like a welder. So she wants to job shadow. So she's coming in for just a couple hours one day that she doesn't, because she's in high school, so that she doesn't have school. So she's coming in that day, just kind of overshadow what we do and how we do it, just to kind of gain that little bit of short experience of what it would be like to work here.
Awesome. That's nice that you allow job shadowing at your company. Good job. Next question. What are some of the top skills or experiences you're looking for in entry-level candidates to work in your specific field? So I know obviously we kind of touched on that, but what are you guys looking for?
I can start on this one. For us, we do have some tests that entry-level applicants would have to go through for the application process itself. But overall, looking for analytical skills, both on the technical side and also being able to communicate effectively. That's a huge part of our job as we're meeting with bankers, but also being able to communicate amongst the other exam staff and really having a good personality to be able to fit in with our team, because we are a smaller knit team as well locally in the Sioux Falls and Sioux City areas. So analytical and communication are probably the top two. The technical knowledge comes with experience. You don't learn how to be a bank examiner per se in college. So we do have a training team. That's the first part of the Assistant National Bank Examiner entry-level position, is that you'd be put on a training team to work alongside. It could be anywhere from 2 to 3 other examiners to up to 5 potentially entry-level examiners, to really just gain that knowledge and firm foundation to be a strong examiner going forward.
Awesome. Thank you.
I guess for manufacturing, our most entry-level position is assembly. So a lot of there's not a lot of what we do in our area. So a lot of like what we were looking, because we have specific questions that we ask on our application. And I think it's always good to point out how you learn. Like I'm a hands-on, I'm eager to learn. I love learning. I learn by doing. So just kind of knowing those kind of things about yourself and how to present that in an interview or an application are good too, because it makes you more personable, and they can understand like, oh, this person really likes to learn and they're willing to learn anything. They're willing to do any task. Kind of helps you stand out, just being willing to do part of the job.
For sure. So we'll move on to the next question, and we have 2 more questions left. So this is specific to each of you guys. What do you guys like best about working for your company? What makes you excited to go to work every day?
I can go ahead and start. Oh, sorry, Josh. There you go.
Josh always.
Go ahead.
Me too. Well, I started this because I just have a true passion for events in general and the creativity and the challenges that come with it. It's always something different. It's working with people and really relieving their stress. And I know it sounds cheesy, but we're actually bringing dreams to life, and it is the best part of it. But also just in my role as I kind of transition to less like client facing and more just leading the team, I think my favorite part by far is seeing my team grow, and that means like grow individually. So growing professionally in their role, but also we're really big here on digging into personal growth too. And I love being a part of each of my team's like journey in that and helping them get better and realize their strengths and weaknesses and how to turn those. And it's just success is about progress, I think. And so that's my favorite part of what I do.
Awesome. Thank you, Katie. Josh.
Yeah, so I think in general, banking is much more accessible than people think. But I really take a lot of joy and pride in making processes easy for people and kind of surprising people by not making it feel like we're pulling teeth. So, providing some joy and ease through the banking process that can sometimes be daunting. I really enjoy. And I really just enjoy the people that I work with. And I think there's a common interest in mutual success here, and just very supportive. I've really enjoyed that. So.
Wonderful.
Kind of tag off of both of them. Pretty similar reasons why I'm blessed with. I actually have some of my best friends that work here. We started as little interns together, and now about 3.5 years in. And just again, very supportive. Culture is huge to us. We're celebrating a lot of big milestones in people's careers, very family oriented. I watch about 5 of the gals' kids here, like very interconnected with families. And then a big part in my role now, I get to see these interns grow, and it is super cool. Starting at a career fair where we're maybe like a little awkwardness, and then just even in the summertime, to see the growth personally and professionally is like the coolest thing to me, and the friendships that I get to see them form with each other.
Absolutely. Thanks, Reagan. Alyssa.
I mean, like everyone says, it's the people. That's kind of been the exciting part that I look forward to each day. And I've seen the change of going out on the floor, on the production floor. I used to just walk out there just to kind of see what's going on, and now I have people that'll wave at me like long ways across, all the way across the building, or they'll be like, and I'll go talk to them, and it's just nice to get to have that, like them know who I am in my role, and they feel free to talk to me about anything that's going on. Or like I had one guy come and talk to me, and he's like, I don't remember how many it was. It's like 18 Saturdays till Christmas. I'm like, oh, I'm so excited. And then we went and talked about how his fiance has like 15 boxes of totes of Christmas stuff. I'm like, yeah, me too. Like, I'm so excited to put it out. So it's nice to make those small connections with those individuals and being able to follow up with them later on to just provide that one-on-one team building.
Absolutely. And Ashlyn.
Yeah, echo the team building and the people that you work with. That's really important to really feel a sense of a second family at work as well. Also, diversity here at the OCC for our assignments. Typically, they're 2 weeks or could be longer. Maybe you have a 1-week assignment, but if you really don't like what you were doing for that assignment, it's short term. There will be something different. And then developmental opportunities at the OCC they're huge. There's so many opportunities to grow your career, starting as an assistant national bank examiner, moving into an associate national bank examiner, getting commissioned, and then you really can take your career in any direction that you want, whether that be the examining field, whether that be more of the supervisor type roles, leading others, developing others, things like that.
Wonderful. All right, to sum it all up, last question, any advice for students that are fresh out of college and they're applying for their first job? What's some advice you can give our students?
I would say use your
Watch your
resources.
video.
I was a sorry. I would say use your resources. I was USD alum. I know that the great resources that USD has, both in the academic career success planning with you, Ashland, and then also the business school, depending on what area that you're in and your major. BCOM has a student success center, so utilize the resources there. Utilize Coyote Careers. Get involved on campus, and just don't be afraid to put yourself out there and go for that big job or that job that you've had your mind set on for a while.
Absolutely.
Kind of
You're the
going off
biggest
that.
person that.
Oh, you go ahead, Alyssa.
Just that you're the person that's going to stand in your way the most. If you don't put yourself out there, if you don't try, if you don't shoot for the stars, you're not going to get anywhere. So just put yourself out there and go for it.
For sure. Reagan.
I was not in their shoes too long ago, and I was, new in like a Sioux Falls community, and I'm sure in a lot of other towns they have like Young Professionals Network. It's essentially for us people to get out of our comfort zone, go meet new people, show up at like morning coffees, happy hours. They do so many events, and you'll meet a lot of people that are just as nervous to go as you are. So go with a friend, makes it feel a little less.
I love that you mentioned that. Yes. Katie.
I was going to say what you said, Reagan. Making connections is huge, and you never know where that connection could lead to your next opportunity and what that looks like, because I think there is a lot of pressure. At least it was a while ago for me when I graduated college, but when I did, I felt this pressure to really pick something and like, this is what I have to stick to for a while. And that is just not the case. Like, pick something that you are interested in, and you may not have a passion for yet, but that you're interested in, and give it your all. And then at the end of it, you can say, this was for me. I tried, I gave it my all. And then you never, keeping that connection thing going, you never know where it's going to lead to next. So there is that pressure, but just don't let that get to you. Just listen to what calls to you and what interests you the most, because that's what's going to drive you.
Absolutely. Josh, any final advice?
Yeah, no, I think Katie stole my script on that one. I would say set goals and move toward those goals with intention, but always also continue to be aware of what is fulfilling you, because you might change your mind. And don't stress out about not getting the perfect job right out of school. You'll get plenty of opportunity to work hard in your 20s to get where you want to go, or 30s or whatever. You'll get there.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, guys. And thank you again to the employers who joined us today and sharing your advice. We do have one more Career Conversations next Wednesday, September 28th at 10 a.m. You can join us via Zoom. And we just appreciate all of you guys for joining us today and sharing your advice for our students. So thank you and have a wonderful day.